Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water, reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there's space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as a dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water, reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there's space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. In the Buddhist view of reality, the song is not merely poetic, but it's really pointing to a deep truth of reality, that the flower and the mountain and the stream, all of the aspects of the cosmos are intimately connected to me in a way that it's really my body, that my body doesn't begin and end with this flesh, that we recognize that the sun is constantly flowing into me, is constantly a participate in my being and my body. And the air that we breathe from the trees is constantly flowing in through this boundary and participating in what I am. And everything, as we look, as I'm sitting here looking at you tonight, it's coming into my spirit and my being. You are, and whatever day you've had is being felt by everybody around us. So the song is really trying to get us to wake up to a deep reality that is very wondrous and very consoling, that we are much larger than this little body that we're holding on to and fearful for and competing with. And so I just suggest you to just take a deep breath and breathe in and breathe out, and feel your body in the chair, and feel that you're surrounded by beautiful, wonderful, good people with good intent, and we're there's no bombs going off around us. And everybody here has probably had a good meal tonight and has a nice house and a warm bed. And so just luxuriate in the beauty of this moment. And we'll sing one more verse before we introduce Michael. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am blooming as a flower. I am fresh as the dew. I am solid as a mountain. I am firm as the earth. I am free. Breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. I am water reflecting what is real, what is true. And I feel there is space deep inside of me. I am free, I am free, I am free. Is Kelly around? There she is.
Thank you. My name is Kelly Keller, and I'm the director for the Center for Faith Studies here at Countryside, and I just want to welcome you all to this space, and thank you so much for coming out this evening, and to thank Mike and Michael for coming out this evening and sharing their gifts with us. Kind of every year for a few years, Community for Mindful Living has been gracious in offering their retreat director for the weekend for a public talk for this evening using our space. And so this is part of that tradition of working together. I'm also excited that we've been working together for a few months now. On Thursday, the first Thursday of every month, we at our chapel are holding a vigil for the earth. And it's a 30-minute meditation where we're just holding the earth in our intentions together. It's a small, simple group, but I would invite you to come out any first Thursday to our chapel. And just so a few items before we get started with our speaker tonight. In case you haven't found the restroom, and you will need one, then rather than dance around, you can go out this door to your left, and just around the corner, that's where our restrooms are. And then also, this is a mindfulness event. So let's be mindful of our cell phones. Could you, if you haven't put your cell phones on silent or turned them off yet, that would be a nice thing to do. And I just also want to make you aware that Center for Faith Studies has a lot of events that are open to the public. And if you're not currently on our mailing list, we do have little brown cards at the information desk and also by the cookies that you can fill out to get on our email list so you can know of the other events that we have. But also to let you know that we do have a reception afterwards, and there are cookies and coffee, and we decided rather than have you standing around in this area, we would invite you into our coffee house where you can sit, and the ambiance is so much nicer. And so there's cookies, there's coffee, there's lemonade, there's actually a really nice nut mix there, and there's also going to be some CDs and some other material pertinent to this evening there. So I know that when we get towards the end, people start flying, and I wanted you to know those things up front.
I forget, so thank you.
So without further ado, I do want to let Mike introduce Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's just so wonderful to be here in this particular place. It's wonderful to share the mindfulness teachings, but this is such an appropriate space, not only beautiful, but the spirit of countryside is so wonderful. The spirit of ecumenism and embracing of various faiths, of trying to build bridges of understanding and love is so heartening and wonderful. And so I'm really grateful to be here and to be able to share this with all of you and to be able to share Michael with you. And I always do a little interfaith plug since I'm up here in front of you all here. And I was raised a Catholic, and I continue to see myself as a Catholic and participate in small ways in Christian prayer life, etc. And I'm also a Buddhist, so I'm going to tell a story from the Bible, the Emmaus story in the Bible. So after Jesus died and was resurrected, some disciples were on the road to the city of Emmaus, and they met Jesus there. But he had died and resurrected. He had manifested in a new form, apparently, because they didn't recognize him. They didn't recognize their master and beloved teacher. So Jesus, who is Christ now, and apparently looking in a very different form, walked with them to Emmaus. And in Emmaus, they broke bread and spent time together, living together and being together. And in that living and being together and breaking bread, they recognized, well, this is Jesus. It didn't look like Jesus. It's not what we recognize as Jesus, but in the life, they recognized Jesus. So with that, I guess I will invite you to open that kind of mind for yourself. That I'm assuming a lot of people may be Christian in the audience, may be curious, some Buddhist, a few maybe, and maybe some people not any particular faith. But so I just invite you to open to the deep heart of what's being presented tonight. If maybe some of the the words and concepts don't jibe with how you see things or view things. But I think for me, our Buddhist community for me is the body of Christ, because we're trying to use these things to cultivate a heart of love, unconditional love. So it's absolutely, for me, I'm not trying to put theology out there, but for me, in my experience, it's the body of Christ. It's the risen Christ of love. So with that, I would like to introduce Michael Ciborski. Can I say a few things about you? You'll probably get mad for me telling this story, but it's so good I can't pass. So as a 21-year-old man, Michael went to Plum Village to experience a Thich Nhat Hanh retreat. And he went there with his high school sweetheart. And they both loved it so much they wound up staying there and living there. And then after a couple years, he became a monk and she became a nun. And so they lived in different quarters. And I'm not sure what that meant in a deeper sense. I'm sure their relationship was beautiful, but I'm wandering afar. So, and after several years, so Michael became a monk, and after 7 years, he felt a calling to bring this practice, this beautiful practice, into a lay environment. So he came to New Hampshire and formed a residential community of people that live there and practice there. And his wife, the story is that they decided separately to leave. And so she left and he left, and eventually they wound up together and got married and have 3 kids. So that's my cute story about Michael. My other story is that I don't know him well, but the first time I met him was at a day of mindfulness in Kansas City. And my experience, at the end of it, they asked us to just say what came to our mind when we reflected on the day, and my reflection was that our community is well into the future, that the spirit of Thich Nhat Hanh goes on in many forms, that I feel the spirit of Thich Nhat Hanh. I felt that spirit today. So I hope that's true for you tonight, that you feel the spirit of Christ and the spirit of Thich Nhat Hanh in what we're trying to do today. And so here's Michael Ciborski.
Here we go. Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, very happy to have the chance to sit and practice a little mindfulness with you. I felt really good listening to the music and singing, and to the story. It made me a little bit nervous, but everything before that was great. No. I want to be able to share some of my experience with you, but I also want to be able to enjoy practicing some of this with you a little bit. So I would like to invite everyone to settle in deeply and take a couple of deep breaths in and out and really feel the body of your breath. And continue to be aware of your breathing as if you are following the sensations of breathing with your awareness. It's like bringing your mind and your body together. You're bringing them together in the experience, the sensations of the breathing. Our minds may be in many different places. Our minds may be worrying about many different things, trying to solve different problems. And all day long, all week long, all month long, for many years we may have been wandering here and there in our minds. And in this moment, I would invite you to gather yourself in. Bring it all in. Really feel the body of breathing. Feel your body through breathing. Breathing in, I gather myself inwards. And breathing out, I can release, I can let go. I can let go of any tension that I'm carrying. Maybe it's in my body a little bit. Maybe there's worry and stress in my mind. Breathing in, I gather myself inwards. Breathing out, I release, I let go. I settle down into this moment, into this place. As we continue to breathe like that, our awareness becomes like a candle inside of us, shining its light outwards to fill our whole body, the space of our body. And when that awareness is strong, established well, we might even be able to open it further to hold another person, another being, another object, the world around us in that awareness also. But for now, just bring it in. Bring that awareness in and let fall away everything that you don't need right now. And you don't need very much right now. Yeah. Everything in this moment, in this place, is taken care of. So we don't need to hold on. Breathing in, gathering in. Breathing out, releasing, settling down. I'm going to invite the sound of this bell several times and fill this space a little bit with the sound of the bell. I'm also going to chant some poems that we use in our tradition to practice with the sound of the bell. And you can just continue to breathe and be present and let the sounds and the meaning of the words move through the space that you're in. Let the vibration of the bell and the music be felt inside of you and help you to remain right there, alive, open, well. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May the hearers waken from forgetfulness and transcend the path of anxiety and sorrow. I listen, I listen. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. I listen, I listen. I feel my afflictions begin to dissolve. My mind is calm, my body relaxed. A smile is born upon my lips. Following the sound of the bell, my breath guides me back to the safe island of mindfulness. In the garden of my heart, the flower of peace blooms beautifully. This is a very simple practice, but it's a very important practice too. When we practice to come home to ourselves, we are reconciling. We are bringing ourselves back together from all these different places, projects, and worries. We bring ourselves into harmony again, into connection again. We have different layers of our being, and these different layers get separated and fragmented. And we practice like this to unify ourselves, bringing, in a simple way of expressing it, bringing the mind and the body back together, bringing the experience of our spiritual life and our thinking, our feeling experience and our bodies, bringing it all together. And when we're all there, right, we feel good, right? We feel well, we feel stable. And when you're really present and alive in the moment, you are free from all that stress and worry that usually is pushing and pulling at you, right? You have this awareness of life happening in the moment. To come home to ourselves like this is to come home to life, to become alive again, as it were, right? We are able to connect deeply and directly with ourselves and thus with another person or with a situation around us. And when my mind is full of turbulent thoughts and my heart is aching with strong emotion, right, those things get in the way of me being able to connect deeply with what's happening in my life. I'm, in a sense, lost in the turbulence of my inner life. And a lot of what I want to talk to you about tonight is how we can practice very simple practices to clarify that, right? So that our inner life is clear and bright and offers us an opportunity to see with fresh eyes and to deepen our understanding, and perhaps to bring our virtue, our gifts into the world in a way that we cannot when we are lost, when we are pushed and pulled by strong emotions, when we are burdened with the sufferings of our life, burdened with the weight of the world and the hardship of just trying to get by and survive and pay bills. And, right? All those things won't go away, but our way of being in them can change. Right? When I practice to come home to myself, I find this experience of presence and awareness in my body, in this place, very stabilizing. And I also find that when I come home to myself, it's not just me who's here. Like right now, it's all of you. Right? But if I'm not really here in myself, I don't really see all of you. I don't really connect with all of you. I've got to come home to myself in order to be present with you. And this is one of the gifts of this practice. Making ourselves fully present in this moment of life, right, gives us life. It gives us direct access to life. And that's something wonderful. It's something enjoyable. For me, the present moment is the most stable, most reliable refuge that I have. You know, I have a home, like a house, with an address, right? And I'm pretty comfortable there, right? But when I'm not in my home, I can also be comfortable. I can also have a home, a refuge, if I'm able to come home to myself, come home to life, right? To make myself fully present. Our lives are not going to happen in the future. Not one bit. None of us is going to live in the future. The future hasn't yet come. It's not going to come. It's always out there. That's what the future is, right? And our lives are also not stuck in the stories, the suffering and the joys of the past. The past is gone. It's already happened, right? Life happens in the present moment. Life happens right here, right now. It's not going to happen in the future. It happens now, right? Everything that might, we say, happen in the future will be a result of what comes out of this moment. So this moment births, if you will, the future, but not really. It births the moment as it rolls forward into itself, right? But this moment also contains all of the past. For everything that's happened to us and anyone else around us comes together in this moment to feed what we experience, to form what we experience as this moment, right? This is a very stable place to come to, right? If I spend my time worried and stressed about what's going to happen and how am I going to get where I want to go out there in the future, right? I won't feel very stable. I won't feel very well. But if I'm able to come home to life as it's actually happening, what's actually happening in this very moment, and from there look forward, it's like I look forward and I can plan, I can see the future, but my feet are on the ground. Right? The difference is, am I lost in my worries and my anxieties about what's going to come, a fear of what might or might not happen, of what I might have or what I might lose, right? Then I'm lost in the future. But when I practice to come home to myself in this moment, in this place, establishing myself here and now, fully alive, I can still look towards the future, but I'm here. And I feel solid. I feel this as a kind of a refuge. And it's the same when looking back at what has happened in my life and in the life of my family and my society, I could become lost in some of those stories, maybe those wounds that I carry or that my people carry, right? I could be overwhelmed by the tragedies that have unfolded, or sometimes even the joy that had been experienced, and feel lost in a kind of nostalgia for what once was, and oh, how I wish it could be like it once was, right? And I'm lost in that space. It's not a very stable place to be. It doesn't feel very solid. It's not very clear. But if you bring yourself home to this moment, to this place, establish yourself fully in the present moment, awake, alive, you can look back at the past. You can learn from it. You can grow through looking back at that, but you're not lost in it. This moment is that kind of stable refuge. The other thing about the being, practicing to be awake and alive in this very present moment, right? Is that you experience how much, well, it's kind of like what Mike was saying through that song, how much everyone and everything around you has to do with you, and how much you have to do with everyone and everything around you. You see the connections, right? You notice very clearly how when someone speaks in that way, it touches something in you, right? There's a connection there. When someone acts in that way, it means something to you. You see how the happiness of your loved ones, your family and your friends becomes your happiness. You see how the suffering of your loved ones and your family, your friends, becomes your suffering. You see how your happiness and your joy can be theirs, and your suffering can be theirs. You see what we call the interbeing nature of things, how one thing is with another. And when you realize that you are there alive and so deeply connected to all these people, and not just people, but the flowers, the spaces, the soil, the wind, the rain, right? The sun, all the animals, all the forests, all the grasses. When you see how your life is inextricably interwoven with all these other living beings, you realize you are a part of that. You are a part of life. You know, most of the day, I bet most of us in this room don't have that awareness. We see ourselves apart from life as I'm here and life is happening all around me and I have to somehow get out there and participate in it. But when you come home to yourself deeply, you realize you are not apart from, but you are a part of life. And that is another kind of a refuge. It's an awareness that can open our hearts and help us to bring our understanding and our compassion into the world. It is a kind of a view, an awareness that allows us to feel a sense of home and belonging in the same way you would in your family, right? You know you're so connected to your family. You feel at home there. In your church, in your community, you belong in a sense. You have a home there. You feel that sense of ease and well-being. And if you grow this awareness of being, I am here, alive, a part of the world, a part of the earth, right? Then everywhere you go, wherever you are, you can connect, whoever you're with, you can connect with that awareness and be at home, be a part of life. And so much suffering that we carry through our days is about this looking for meaning and connection and belonging. And yet the reality, our reality is that we are that. We do belong. We are a part of this miracle, this wondrous manifestation, this creation of God, this manifestation of so many millions, billions, countless living beings creating this world that we know. Right? We are a part of that, and we belong to it. So we don't need to, if you have that awareness in you, you don't need to go looking for that belonging. You don't need to be feeling lost, alone, or isolated ever. Right? You can return to that awareness, return to that home that you have as a part of life. All creatures become our family. We are all children in that same family. We touch our interbeing nature. So the first thing that I experience when I touch this awareness and I breathe it and I open my heart to allow myself to feel it, so it's not just an idea, right? Because it's easy to think like this. Oh yeah, I'm made of the sun and I'm made of the soil and I eat food that comes from all over the place, so I'm made of that, and I've learned from people, so I'm kind of made of them. And you can think that. It's very easy to think it. But to breathe it and feel it and let it open you up, right? The first thing that I experience is great joy when I do this. Great joy. And great release of any anxiety that is in me. The next thing that happens, though, is I want to do something from there. I feel invigorated. I feel connected. I feel alive. I want to live from that place. But what do you do when you're a part of life and connected to everyone and everything? Well, it's very simple. What rises up in me is love. I want to take care. I want to take care of me, and I want to take care of you. Right? So quite naturally, practicing mindfulness, which is this coming home to yourself, and opening your heart, puts you in touch with an understanding, these deep connections, this interbeing, which opens the path of compassion and love. Right? It's the natural progression of this practice. It's so simple. And those are the principles that we work with when we talk about developing mindfulness in our daily lives. And oftentimes the sort of the milk and honey that's put out there is, it really reduces stress and anxiety and helps you to feel better or to accomplish more work, to be more efficient and, to communicate better. And there's all sorts of benefits like that in bringing mindfulness practice into your life. But that's not the reason, the real reason why we do this. When you really start to practice and your heart starts to crack open, you realize you're doing this because it brings understanding and love into your life. Yeah. And it opens that road wide. For me, a statement of faith is not enough. I need to let the idea become a reality in my life. I need it to shape the way that I think and speak and act in my daily life. The intention to do good for me is not enough. It's good. A good intention is good, but it's not enough for me. I need it to take shape. I need it to express itself in my thinking. I need it to move from the way that I think and see things out into the way I communicate and feel with you. And then with what I do with my body, the way I live my life, the choices I make in terms of my livelihood and lifestyle. I need to see that happening. Otherwise, it's just an idea. Yeah. I'm not sure that there is healing. I'm not sure that there is redemption with just an idea. I think this path of goodness, it needs to be walked. Right? A path really isn't a path unless it's walked. Right? Even if you build a nice landscaped path out in your garden, if you never walk on it, it's not really a path. It's the idea of a path, and it's out there the possibility of a path. But it really becomes a path when it's walked. Yeah. In our practice that is drawn from Buddhist teachings, they speak about action on 3 levels. And that was actually sort of built into that poem that I chanted with the bell too. The first words are body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. And that refers to these 3 realms of action. There is the action that we have in our body, and there's the action that we have when we're communicating. Speech is the word that's often used, but it refers to the whole space of connecting and communicating. So it's not just speaking, but also you're listening and the way that you're able to listen, right? And this is very much a heart space, a feeling space. When you communicate well with something, you feel each other. We even say we have a heart-to-heart connection. Right? When you have a heart-to-heart connection, it's not that you agree on politics and the environment or whatever. Heart-to-heart connection means that you're connecting directly, not through ideas, but through that feeling space with the other person. Right? Your ideas may have helped, But that space, it's a heart space, the communicating one. So that's what's referred to as speech, body, speech, and mind. Our minds, the way that we think and what we think about and the patterns of our thinking, this is an action. I've discovered that what goes on inside my head isn't as private as I thought. Yeah, I think I used to have the assumption that I could just kind of wander around and think in my head whatever I wanted, and it was just mine, and had nothing to do with anyone else. But what I've realized is that thoughts are the beginning of formations in the world, right? So even those little stories we spin in our heads when we're kind of daydreaming, or when we're telling that story of suffering or anger or frustration, even though we're not speaking or acting and it's going on inside us, it's actually beginning to manifest in the world through our thinking. It can be measured as well. But that inner space, it is a kind of an action. So learning to take care of what goes on inside of us is very important. The way that I imagine it for myself is kind of like that my thoughts are here inside of me reaching out. They're looking for understanding. Right? I want to understand something, so I'm thinking towards it, into it, around it. So my thoughts are like reaching out to take a hold of the world around me somehow. But that starts to shape the way that I feel. The way you're thinking determines how you're going to feel, whether it's a pleasant feeling or not. Right? The story you tell yourself inwards can lift your spirits up, lift you up. You could feel so good, or it can drop you right down till you feel like you're underneath something horribly huge and heavy. Right? All the power of your thinking. Right? So it moves out into that feeling space. It moves out and influences the way that I speak. Right? And influences what I do. So I see that movement, that from the spiritual spaces inside of me, I see that shape, that shaping of action through thinking and speaking and my body. It's moving from the inside out. And I like to bring awareness to this space so that I can bring my best out into the world. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is about how to take care of strong stories, powerful stories and emotions inside of us, and how to embrace them and help them calm down so that they don't run the show, so that your virtue, your loving kindness, your peacefulness, your clarity and understanding can be where you come from, instead of that tumultuous, emotional experience inside driving everything. There's a simile, an image that's painted, and it goes like this. Suppose there is a dyer, someone who dyes things, with a piece of cloth, and that cloth is stained and dirty. But they dip it in a dye, blue, yellow, red, or pink. It will look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because it was stained and dirty to begin with. Right? So too with the mind. If your mind has an unwholesome activity, right, is moved by frustration, anger, sadness, then an unhappy destination can be expected. Those are the words of that teaching. So basically, it will create more of its own. Right? And then the example continues. Suppose that dyer had a piece of cloth, and it were clean and bright, and it was dipped in some dye, whether blue or yellow or red or pink. It will look well dyed and pure in color. Why? Because it was clean and bright to begin with. So too, if there's a wholesome, motivating energy in the way that you're thinking and feeling inside, a happy destination can be expected. It's a nice example. It's very simple, right? It's very easy to understand, but that's the orientation that I like to bring to my practice of being deeply with myself. I want to know what it is that's moving inside of me, whether this is a stained and dirty cloth or whether it's a clear and bright one. And honestly, I'm not so sure I'm ever all in one camp or the other. It's often mixed up. And my practice is to try to create at least a balance and at least an awareness of what's there, so that my awareness can begin to shape that experience a little bit, rather than just going with whatever is there, right? And that's one of the gifts of mindfulness. It gives us this freedom to choose a little bit. We don't just have to take whatever's given. It comes in, and with mindfulness we can see it come in and we can say, okay, that hurts. Do I get angry back? Well, I don't have to get angry back. I could take a few breaths and give some space and try to have understanding instead of anger, right? That possibility is due to mindfulness. It's due to being present and open, and this awareness doesn't judge. It doesn't say better or worse, right, wrong, up or down. It just sees. When you come home to yourself, you just see what's there. You don't have to say, I don't like what's there. That wouldn't be mindfulness. That would be your opinions about something, right? But mindfulness, that awareness, just lets you see what's there. And so then you can practice the simile of the cloth. You can see what's there and say, oh, where is this going to take me? To a happy destination or an unhappy destination? And because I have this space to see that, I can begin to influence it, right? We like to imagine that inside us is a kind of a garden, and this garden is full of seeds. Now, seeds are possibilities, right? They're potentials, right? A little seed has the possibility of becoming a flowering plant, right? It has the potential to become something. And inside of us, like the garden of our heart, if you will, it's full of seeds, possibilities, all kinds of possibilities, nice ones and not so nice ones. It's full of the possibility of discomfort and frustration and aggravation and blaming and condemning and anger and jealousy. And it's even full, every one of us has the possibility, the seed inside of us, of possibly becoming, of hating and becoming violent. We all have that possibility. We have all those unwholesome possibilities inside of us. But we also have, in our heart's garden, all the wholesome possibilities. We have the seed of patience. We have a seed of openness, acceptance, respect, loving kindness, joy, compassion, peacefulness. We have the seed of mindfulness, of that open, porous awareness. Right? We have all these different seeds in us as well. And so, in a way, when we come home to ourselves like this and we pay attention to our inner life in this way, we're becoming gardeners of this heart's garden, right? A gardener looks at the soil and the plants in the garden. Every day, the gardener goes out and looks and sees, how are these ones doing? Do they have what they need? Or are these ones over here, I have never planted them before, so let me find out what they need, right? And these ones, oh, they're getting overrun by weeds. I should do something about that, right? But the gardener first needs to look and see what's in the garden and how are things going. And then, because of that vision, can begin to garden, do the work of gardening. So, when we are paying attention to our inner life, our thoughts and our feelings, we are first just being there, holding that space to see. And over time, we begin to understand how it works. Right? And as we understand more and more about how it works inside, then we have the possibility of gardening more and more, of influencing it more and more. But already, it's a great relief just to be aware. You will find that much of the urgency of your emotions dies down right away when you make yourself present. You don't have to do more than that. So we talk about relating to strong emotional experiences inside as if you were going to take a baby in your arms. And this is a really lovely practice. And this is one that can open the door for all kinds of clarity inside. Open the door for all kinds of new communication between you and your loved ones. You don't have to just keep getting angry in the same patterns you always do with each other, or frustrated, or just burying each other in the same way. You can open new doors of communication and understanding if you can calm your emotions down and understand them. So you take your difficult feeling in the arms of your mindfulness, just like you would a little baby in your arms. So when a baby's crying, you go to it and you pick it up. And you take it tenderly and gently in your arms and you let it know, I've got you now. It's okay. Right? You're like a clear presence of certainty and tenderness that comes into this unknown crying space of the child, the lost space of that child, and you wrap your presence, your tenderness around that child. We all know it doesn't help to shout at the kid and be like, stop that! And they're just going to cry more, or to shake them around. It doesn't help. It just gets worse. We take them in our arms and we provide them with this sense of, it's okay. Right? You do the exact same thing with your own strong emotions. When sadness comes up, when anxiety and fear come up, when anger and jealousy and hatred come up, when strong passions and craving come up, you take them in the arms of your awareness. And sometimes I actually like to fold my arms around myself just to help me stay there and stay aware. If I'm in a public space, I might kind of do this. Just so I look normal. But if not, I might literally, hold myself like that, because that helps my mindfulness stay right there and not get pulled away, distracted. It helps me to feel stronger in my practice, to embody it. And I take deep breaths and I say, I've got you. I've got you. My suffering, I've got you. My hurt, I've got you. My fear, I've got you. It's okay. We can do this. You know that all of our emotions are driven by the stories we tell ourselves inside. They are made possible by repeating over and over again those aggravated thoughts, those angry thoughts, those, telling yourself the story of your suffering over and over again. And when you do this practice, you stop. You stop telling yourself that story. You start telling another story, which is, no, I don't want to go down the road of suffering. And you make that determination. I'm going to take you in my arms. I know, I've done this 1,000 times before. I know what happens if I keep thinking like this. I start shouting, I start yelling. I know what happens if I keep thinking like this. I'm just going to feel worse and worse about life. I've done that before. I'm not going to go down that road. Let me take you in my arms. Let my presence, my loving kindness, my patience wrap you up. And you breathe just 3, 5, 10 breaths, holding yourself tenderly in your arms. You call on your patience. Patience, please be here. Let us hold this suffering. Let us hold this hurt. You call on your loving kindness. Let us embrace this hurt. you're waking up inside you some of those wholesome seeds that are in your garden. And it's like the flower of suffering blossomed, right? in your heart's garden. It came up, now it's no longer just a possibility, it has manifested itself. And you're going to call up now other seeds to come and embrace it. Literally to wrap themselves around it, to breathe them around it. Soften, open, and no more pensing about it. Instead, just feel. Just feel. In the beginning, it's really hard because feeling your suffering is not something you want to do. It hurts. Right? It's not pleasant. But suffering is like compost. And you don't get flowers without compost. No. You have to have the mud, the soil, the dirt, the compost for the flowers to grow. Thich Nhat Hanh likes to say, you can't grow lotuses on marble. You need mud. You need compost. We need something that's inside our suffering. Right? It contains something precious, right? And so we have to relearn our relationship to it, to come to it and take care of it rather than trying to push it away and run away. This is possible. It's really possible. And these simple techniques, they help. So the urgency dies down right away. No longer do you feel you have to say or do something about this suffering because you've got it. You're in relationship to it now. Instead of it dragging you around, you have a relationship, clear, upright, embracing with it. And sometimes that story is so strong that you try to embrace it tenderly like that, and it says, that's not, this is so important, forget your nice mindfulness practice. We really have to get this point across, because if they don't understand this, the whole thing's going to fall apart, and the story just really wants to go. And maybe that's because we've rehearsed it many, many times in our lives. Maybe it's because our ancestors have rehearsed it, and we just picked up that behavior, and that's the way we react, right? We all know those things. We get habit energies transmitted to us from our parents and our family and from our society too. And so for many generations, these seeds may have been watered and formed in us, these ways of reacting. And sometimes a tender embrace isn't enough. You have to be a little stronger. So there's another element of this practice we call belly breathing. And as you want to get out of your head. The storm of your emotion is like the storm in a tree, up in the branches, moving them, swaying them, tearing the twigs and leaves off, right? You want to drop down through the trunk of that tree, down right to where the roots reach into the soil. It's here. So you literally put your hands on your belly, and you press in, not hard, but you press in enough so that when you breathe, there's a relationship there between that in-breath pressing against your hand, and with your out-breath you really help the air to go out by pressing in a little, and in, and out. It's called belly breathing. And you belly breathe like this in order to drop out of the mental experience and into the felt, the feeling experience in your body, right here, right now. The trunk of the tree is barely moving in the storm. The trunk of the tree, the roots of the tree reach down into the soil. They're solid, they're strong. Now, there's a lot of beautiful trees in the city. You could go out tomorrow or tonight even and take a look around and look at some of these beautiful old trees and let that image print itself in your mind. Say, okay, next time I feel myself so upset, so overwhelmed by an emotion, I'm going to remember this tree, this image of this tree, and bring myself down into the roots. And you can feel, when you look at the tree, you can feel what it's like to be that tree with those deep roots. That's the kind of stable, grounded feeling you're going for in your body, right? And if you can turn off the story of your suffering in your mind for just a few breaths, things change. Your perception changes. Your view of what's happening changes. And that little bit of space allows you the chance to bring something more wholesome, something more beautiful out of your heart's garden. Mm. Mm. But there's still the situation where the tender embrace doesn't work, and even the belly breathing doesn't seem to work. So there's a number of other layers you can add to this practice to help you calm down. One is set yourself up with what we call a friend in the practice, someone who understands what you're trying to do in relationship to your inner life. And you go to them, you call them, or you go and you walk with them, you take them by the hand and you say, I need your stability right now. Yeah. I don't want to talk about this story of suffering because I know that's just going to get me more upset. I just need you to be with me, right? And maybe that means going outside to that tree. Maybe that's your friend in the practice. And put your hands on the tree and say, okay, I need your stability. I need your solidity. Yeah. Seek out some support, right? From your community, from your friends in the practice. We have a word in Sanskrit for this. It's Kalyana Mitra, and it literally means a spiritual friend. A friend in your spiritual practice. Kalyana Mitra. Mitra is friend. And sometimes you don't have a friend nearby, though. Another way you can move towards this, if the tender embrace, the belly breathing, and you're feeling isolated are there, is called changing the peg. Now, if you ever have done any building with timber framing, in a timber frame construction, everything is held together by these beautiful joints that have pegs run through them, right? So, a post and a beam, right? They may be fit together, and there's a hole drilled that goes through both of them, and a peg is driven through that to hold it, to lock it together. And there comes a time in a timber frame building, especially those that are exposed directly to the weather, when those pegs, because they're the smallest part, soften first. They may rot out first. And you have to drive a new peg through. And the way you drive the new peg through is you literally put it up to the same hole and you pound it in and it knocks the old peg out. Change the peg. So there are all these different seeds in our consciousness. And when a suffering seed comes up and it's so strong that we know that we don't have the capacity to embrace it, right? It's not doing an injustice to that story of suffering if we change the peg consciously. If we say, I can't embrace you right now. It's too hard. I don't have the skill. I don't have the patience. I don't have the energy right now. I need to just go do something else, right? I'll come back to you when I can. I need to grow strong first. And you go and you water seeds of joy. You water seeds of happiness. You strengthen the other seeds in your garden so that they then are able to do the embracing, right? You drive the old peg out with a new one. Replace it. Let's just do something different right now. Yeah. You could also think of it, it's like you've got a remote and you're going to change the channel. But I like the timber frame example better. But, okay, this is not a good program for me. I need another one. Or off. It'd be great if you could just turn it off. But if you can't turn it off, change the channel. Right? Changing the channel is about, or changing the peg, is about choosing consciously saying, I can't embrace this right now. Or maybe the situation just isn't appropriate to do that kind of practice right there. So I'm going to replace what's going on in my mind right now, replace it with something else. You take an in-breath, you say, I know you're there suffering, but I can't do it right now. I'm going here. And you look at the flower. You say, my gosh, it's so beautiful. And you contemplate the flower, and you wake up seeds of wonder and joy in yourself. Right? There are these two halves of the practice that we have of taking care of ourselves. And one is to be able to embrace and transform the seeds of suffering that are in us. And the other is to strengthen and grow the wholesome seeds that are in us, to encourage them. And they are both very important. Because if you don't have that balance, if you don't have a strong, wholesome seeds in your heart, you don't have anything to do that embracing with. It's like you see it evidenced in conversations with people. I'm just going to take a sip of this. But if you have 2 glasses of water and they're both full, and you pour one glass into the other, it makes a mess. Right? So the idea is you need to have some space. You need to have a garden that has some wholesome energy in it, some spaciousness, some clarity, some ease, some joy, right? Or there's no room to receive anything difficult. And we know what that's like. I certainly know what it's like. When I feel full, when I feel like I'm a little bit stressed, and then my kids come along and ask for more, or demand more, or push for a little more, I feel this tremendous escalation of suffering in me. Because I'm full, I can't do anymore, right? Or maybe you feel that in relationship to all the different things you have going on in your life. You're working on too many things at the same time, stressed and pulled out in different directions. And then that one more thing comes, and it should be something meaningful, it should be something you care about, but you just do not want to touch it. You can't touch it. It's impossible. And if you try, you break, right? That's the full glass, right? We need to work on emptying that glass. Water the wholesome seeds in the garden of our heart. So take time to practice peacefulness. Practice it. Strengthen the capacity you have to be peaceful. Take time to water seeds of joy in you so that you actually can open up and smile and recognize wonder and beauty in life and feel it and let it fill you up. Take time to walk careful, solid steps. That's a lovely practice, actually, because you can still do things. You're still active, you're going somewhere, but go somewhere with your peace, with your joy, with your freedom and your integrity. You know, not with the rush and the worry and the trying to get over there, right? But no, I'm here. I am going over there, but I'm here right now, making these steps with freedom, with joy. And nourish yourself. Take that time for stretching and movement. Take that time for a cup of tea. Take that time to read sacred texts that nourish your heart and your mind, that lift you out of the burdens of your day. There are 1,000 things we can do every day to touch the wholesome seeds. But it's very important that we do them. You know? It's like a scale, you know, and that balance gets tipped. You just spend all this time worrying about suffering and anger, especially in a season like this where the media is just loaded with it, right? Anywhere you look, you've got people yelling at each other and screaming at each other about politics and about oppression and about the environment and about everything. And you soak that in all day, soak that in, and you talk with your friends about it and your family about it and everything you got. How many hours a day are you thinking about what's wrong with life? What's hard in life? And how many hours are you spending touching real joy and freedom and peace in yourself and in the world around you? The scale is probably tipped, right? You just got to build it back up. And there's some really fun research in neuroscience around how our brain treats like experiences of suffering and experiences of joy. And our brains apparently treat experiences of suffering like Velcro, and experiences of joy like Teflon. And they've done some work with this. There's a researcher, his name's Hansen, and they've come up with he's come up with something called the negativity bias. And there's a bias in us. Basically, it's a self-protection mechanism. When something's dangerous, you want to really know it's there, right? So you stick to that. Okay, you're alert. But this has grown in us to be something that's about 5 to 1. You will pay 5 times more attention to a situation that is full of suffering than you will to one that's full of joy. Your brain just goes that way. It's conditioned that way. So we actually really have to work to establish that balance. We have to spend a lot of energy, invest a lot of energy in building up that capacity to really experience joy in our lives. But it can be done. It really can be done. I'd like to practice an exercise with you real quick about that. I'm going to invite the sound of the bell for us to breathe and center, and then it will guide you in a very short meditation about watering seeds, wholesome seeds. Breathing in, I gather myself inwards. Breathing out, I release, I relax, I settle down. And as I breathe in and out, I try to feel down into the space in my chest and my heart. I'm aware of my heart. And I send a message to my heart that it's okay, and I can open, I can soften. Breathing in, aware of my heart. Breathing out, opening my heart. And I imagine my heart, the space of my heart, as a rich and fertile soil. And I reach down with my awareness into that soil, and I take up the seed of peacefulness. While breathing in, I'm aware of the seed of peacefulness in me. And while I breathe out, I allow a smile to form on my lips. A peaceful smile. Breathing in, aware of peace. Breathing out, smiling with peace. And I release the seed of peace, and I reach down into the garden of my heart, and I draw up the seed of patience. Breathing in, aware of the seed of patience in me, and breathing out, I smile with patience. I smile so that I can feel the energy of patience in me. And I release the seed of patience. And I reach down into the garden of my heart and take up the seed of loving kindness. Breathing in, I am aware of loving kindness in me. And breathing out, I smile with loving kindness. I smile to feel the energy of loving kindness within me. And I release loving kindness and take up from within my heart the seed of compassion. Breathing in, I am aware of compassion in me. Breathing out, I smile with compassion. Smiling to feel the energy of compassion within me. Thank you for practicing that meditation with me. That is a meditation we call the seed of peace meditation, because usually the seed of peace is the first one you practice with. But you see how simple it is to spend a few moments. That was abbreviated. You might spend 2 or 3 minutes with each one of those if you were sitting by yourself. But to reach inside and to begin to connect with these different energies in us, these seeds that are full of virtue, full of goodness, that are about healing and wholesomeness, that are about connection, that are about transformation. That's why we call them wholesome, because they're about the whole, the well-being of the whole, the well-being of all of us. Right? We call the unwholesome seeds unwholesome, not because they're bad, but because they're only looking at one part. Right? They're generally about me and not you, or you and not me. Right? But how easy it is to reach inside and to begin to connect with those energies. And you can get very good at it so that it's available for you at any moment in any day. Right? Wait a minute. I need a little patience here. And you can just reach in and find that energy. Right? But you have to train yourself to do that. It's not just going to be there out of nothing. Right? You have to grow that seed. These seeds are like organic plants, seeds in a garden. If you water them and tend them, they grow. And if you don't, well, they just stay asleep in the soil. And that's the same for the wholesome ones and the unwholesome ones, by the way. So if you spend your time watering the unwholesome seeds of frustration, blaming, anger, and jealousy, that's what you're going to experience. That's what's going to be strong in your garden. But if you take the time to water the wholesome seeds, they grow stronger. There is no way that they cannot. They are fed by your mindfulness, by your attention. They are fed by an interaction with other people. They grow strong that way. So when you take up that path of virtue, of goodness, of wholesomeness, right, you are watering those seeds, and every step you make, and every word you speak, and every thought you have, right, can water those seeds and strengthen them. You can make your own list. Think about what wholesome energies would be important to you at this time in your life. And you sit down and you make a list of 5 or 6 or 7 of them, and just take 15 minutes a day to spend with those seeds, touching them, watering them, strengthening them. I do this meditation a lot, and it really helps me. So much is possible, and each one of us can do so much. Remember that we are a part of life. So every thought, every word, every step that we take, every action is a kind of an offering, a contribution towards the expression of this world, its manifestation, and what happens here. Every thought, every step, every word, we can bring something beautiful into life. We can be creatively participating in life. We're going to be offering something. What is that something? Is it our peace, our clarity, our joy? Is it our understanding and compassion? Or is it our frustration, our anxiety, our anger, our sadness? That's up to us to determine, right? And that's the path we walk, to cultivate the capacity to bring more and more of our virtue, of our goodness into the world, to let those angelic forces come through us, to find expression through us in life. Please don't leave it for someone special out there. Yeah, we are all special like that. We all have that capacity to wake up presence, understanding, and compassion and bring it into life. I'm going to close by reading you a poem. This is from a poet whose name is Jalaluddin Balkhi, but most of us know him as Rumi. The Silkworm. I stood before a silkworm one day, and that night my heart said to me, I can do things like that. I can spin skies. I can be woven into love that can bring warmth to people. I can be soft against a crying face. I can be wings that lift. And I can travel on my 1,000 feet throughout the earth, my sacks filled with the sacred. And I replied to my heart, Dear, can you really do all those things? And it just nodded, yes, in silence. And so we began. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Please practice to breathe your peace. Please practice to walk your peace. Yeah. He's right there inside. Touch those seeds and bring them out. Our world needs it. It's calling for it. We by the suffering in our own hearts, it's calling for that. And the big heart of our world is calling for that. And if we can do that, if we can transform our relationship to the suffering inside of us, our actions will transform the world, right? That's the prerequisite for solving all the problems out there, is being able to hold them and transform them here. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So thank you. I'm going to make a few announcements, and if I forget something, wave to me out there. So to begin, we have a lovely community of practice for these teachings and these practices, and we hope you would feel free to join us. We're pretty open. There are people that come and go, and so just to stop and be with us on a Monday evening would, I think, be very comfortable, and you could see if it's something that would help you. So we practice at the Yoga Path at 76th and Pacific on Monday nights at 6:30. And we're usually there for a couple hours, but people can come and go as they please if that schedule isn't right for you. And we have other activities during the month. There will be a book out if you want to stay for cookies and coffee. In that area, there's a book where you can sign up to get email announcements about what's going on with us. So we'd love to have you join us. And the teachings in the Buddhist tradition are there's never a fee, but there's something called dana, which is an offering that helps continue the teachings. So Michael travels around the country and around the world sometimes offering these teachings to people. So if you feel you've received some value tonight, and if you have some money to offer, we'd appreciate your support in the basket in the back. And also, Michael is a very accomplished, beautiful musician, and there are some CDs, basically practice CDs with chanting, and those are available back there as well.
There's a CD of chanting that's called Reverence, and then there's a CD. There are two actual CDs of guided meditations that are there. They look very similar, so when you look, that was a mistake in the coloring of the cover. They were supposed to be slightly different colors, but they're really close. So they almost look the same at first glance, but there's a Series 1 and a Series 2, two different sets of guided meditations. The one that we did is there in a longer version too, that Seat of Peace meditation on the Series 1. Yeah, thank you.
Did I forget anything? So please feel free to join us if you want some refreshments and just to chat over in the coffee house area. And otherwise, thank you. It was wonderful to be here with you tonight. Thank you.